Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fiction genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Once Upon a Time. Another great episode. Quite a few things went down in this episode. We got to break down bit by bit. Obviously, a big storyline in this episode is like the whole situation about what Regina and Zelena are going to do about this whole situation about Henry and Lucy, because it's like, well, because we can't do anything because we can break the spell to save Lucy, but that would put Henry's life in danger. It's like, so they don't want to give up on either one. So it's like, what do we do? And then Gothel shows up, and apparently she wants this. She wanted a resurrection amulet instead, and help in exchange for helping wake Lucy up without it causing any problems for Henry. So obviously Regina and Zelena are like, yeah, obviously we can't trust her. And it was kind of an interesting thing that like came up during this episode. There's a whole like obviously the people that they're pretending to be, their cursed personas, Kelly and Ronnie. Apparently they ran the bar together. It was kind of both of theirs, which I didn't know that was, maybe that had come up earlier in the season, but I don't remember that. But maybe Ronnie had kind of mentioned that. But I thought that's kind of neat because the moment like Zelena walks in, she's like, what did you do? I was like, oh no, the bar kind of had like on its own charm. You just changed everything. And Regina's like, we're really not about to have this conversation. And then had that sweet moment where they have like, oh, it's a sign that says Kelly and Ronnie's pub. And it's like, and if you stick around, maybe we could put it out together, having this heartwarming moment. And then Zelena breaks it. And Regina's like, literally, we were having a heart-to-heart moment and you just did that. What was the point in that? It's like, oh, so you knew the amulet was in there. It's like, no, lucky Cass. What? This was like a sentimental, precious moment we were about to have it as a bond as sisters, and you broke it, not being 100% sure knowing that the amulet was in there. Very interesting. Now, obviously, this all kind of, obviously, like this Once Upon a Time does, the past and the future tend to kind of like be kind of reflections or kind of a repeat. It's like if you don't learn from history, you're bound to repeat it. Because this all goes back to like Robin and Zelena. I'd actually forgotten about the whole Zelena situation, that she ended up sacrificing her magic. I'd completely forgot that she was out magic. Because I was like, didn't later on when she pops up, like, before the curse being activated and stuff like that she had magic. So I was like, I knew at some point she had gotten it back, right? But it was like, I could, excuse me, I'd completely forgotten that she had lost her magic. And it's kind of interesting seeing Robin practice magic and her mom's being super hard on her. It's like, no, I'm not going to teach you magic. And she's like, oh, you're just scared of magic. Zelena never brought it up, but I always my entire interpretation was that it's because Zelena saw who she was with magic. Like, she saw what magic did to her and Regina. It, like, getting access to magic just kind of awoken the dark side in them. Granted, that had a lot to do with their upbringings and stuff like that, but still, like, dark magic can bring out the darkness within just much. I mean, to be fair, it can also bring out the light. So I think maybe that's what Zelena was afraid of. It's like, you're my daughter, so maybe you'd be a lot more tempted to the dark side, especially if you have magic. Or at the very least, maybe it's just like, I didn't want you to go down that path. Like, magic kind of didn't always do the best for me. It kind of destroyed my family on many different levels. Didn't do good stuff for Cora. Didn't do good stuff for Regina. Didn't really do too much for me. Kind of made me feel kind of like an outcast, and kind of made me become the villain I was. So it's that type of situation. So I figured that was kind of like Zelena's main reason for doing it, but she never really went into exact details on why she was so against Robin learning magic. Like I said, I think subtext, like from the subtext of everything, like that was most likely the reason. But nevertheless, feeling like she needed to like learn magic any other way she could, she goes to Gothel instead, which is like, even though she's hearing this conversation with Hook, or rather Nook, as Zelena calls him, representing New Hook, is the fact is that even though he's up here like talking about Gothel having taken away his child, I guess Robin's kind of in her rebellious phase, so she's not willing to listen to her mom as much. So it's kind of sad because it's like, because Regina's like the cool aunt. It's like, oh, here's mom, your grandmother's magic book. Oh yeah, gotta mess around with this stuff like that, Because Regina's a lot more. I mean, to be fair, Zelena's kind of doing that all on her own. Like, Regina didn't necessarily have to worry about that too much with Henry. There were so many people to help, like so much family to help. But like Zelena kind of raising Robin on her own and everything. So there's that. And I think maybe she just feels pressure because she doesn't want to mess up. She wants to do whatever she can. She wants to give Robin the best chance, like the chance, a chance that she didn't really have, that Cora didn't really give her, So she's essentially overcompensating for trying to do the right thing, trying to be a good mother, because I guess, her greatest fear is like she doesn't know how to be one. She's afraid she's going to fail, but after talking to Hook, and it's like, the fact of the matter is what she wants, show her the most powerful magic that you have is your love for her. Like, be the mother, like, that you want to be to her. And it's like, is it me, or I love that Gothel's constantly using that as an excuse, like, oh, I can be a better mother. Like, he's saying it to Robin, to Anastasia. It's like, really? You're up here talking about you want to be a good, you're going to be a good mother to them. It's like, yeah, Victoria and them have their flaws. Yes, Victoria has done many, 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 many bad things because Anastasia ended up, Anastasia. I'm just always going to see Anastasia, but there's like, nevertheless, she ends up finding about all the evil stuff her mom's done, especially like, oh, you're awake now because she put Lucy in a spell sleep. So, but she's like, oh, I'll be a better mother to her. It's like, really? This coming from the lady that tricked someone into having a baby with her so she could get out of a tower and left that baby to be imprisoned in the tower forever, essentially. So it's like, really? You're up here trying to pretend to be mother of the year? Like, don't give me that. Like, obviously it's part of the manipulation. This episode did bring up an interesting perspective really quickly, and I might as well bring it up, is the whole situation with Hook. I love the duality of it, because obviously in the past Hook is like, no, I want to see Gothel like suffer and die. But then you have like Killian in Under the Curse being like, no, like, I can feel it, Eloise, she's a victim in this, which maybe she was, like, because the way she kind of talks about it, the reason why she's lashing out to the point she is now is because she kind of understands where the other girls are coming from, when there's Anastasia or Robin. Is like, oh yeah, they kind of had to find out, she had to find out on her own about magic. She never really had anyone to kind of teach her that way. She was kind of left on her own. She was ostracized, kind of much like Zelena. Like, she was kind of an outcast. Zelena was because of her magic and the green skin and everything, but at the same time, Gothel was kind of the same thing. People kind of feared her, so she was kind of outcasted. So she's kind of lashing out. So, but the moment he said that, kind of made me think, oh, maybe we'll see that. Like I said, the show always makes you kind of feel a little sympathetic for the villains, because you realize that they weren't always villains, that certain things happened in their lives to turn them into what they are. I mean, Victoria is a great example. She's freaking Rapunzel. Like I said, it still trips me out to think about that, but I think that's such an interesting twist in making it seem like, wow, the evil stepmother of Cinderella was actually Rapunzel. So it's just an interesting thing like that. So I'm sure they're going to have something like that for Gothel. I don't actually know who that witch is that they're she's talking to, trying to resurrect. I don't know who she is. I kept the name. I'm actually blanking on her name, but it's like they said it multiple times, but it sounded slightly familiar. But I'm not 100% sure who she is. If you do know, let me know in the comments down below if you know who she is. But that seems to kind of be connected to Gothel's like ultimate goal. But I'm kind of mixing and matching everything in this. You kind of had the back and forth between Drizella and Victoria about the whole like, oh, you're finally getting everything you deserve, mother. It's like, well, it's not like you're in a much better position, but they finally got out of the well. Side note, Victoria's got an awesome arm, like throwing that heel up, knocking the latch and getting the rope down. It's like, that's pretty good work. And then she had that moment of like, that moment that kind of make you go, woof, was when she was like, oh, you haven't done anything to deserve love. I was like, wow, that was a punch to the heart. And then you had that whole moment of her being like, you think I haven't done anything? That idea of like the bastions and the lanterns that you give so much credit to Anastasia for? That was actually my idea. The lanterns that went up and everything, there's like kind of like, oh, they put one, kind of show their mom. I forgot, what was it to represent, like showing their mom so their mom could find her way back home, or I think it was like, because it gave her hope, and it also kind of guided her back to them essentially. So because remember when she got back, Anastasia was the one that was still kept going, but Drizella's the one that kind of gave up, just because, and to be fair, she was a little girl. She didn't know she was ever going to see her mom again. So it was just kind of like, probably trying to be brave and strong for everyone, or being like, no, I'm not bothered by it. Like, I guess we just have to move on because we don't know, but because she saw Anastasia kept going, that's why in her heart it's like, oh, Anastasia never gave up on me. Drizella, she felt like Drizella did. She felt like both her daughters were being swept away from her, but it's Anastasia she felt like was still more loyal to her. So it was just, a mother trying to return to this life. And it was just, and to be fair, Gothel kept throwing the temptation. Like, she kept pushing it away, but Gothel kept tempting her, trying to pull at the dark strings in her heart and manipulating her. So everything that Victoria did wasn't 100% on her. Yes, the argument could be made. Yes, Gothel laid out the path. It didn't mean that Victoria, or, Rapunzel had to follow it, but still. And I even thought it was kind of interesting too what Victoria tried to do, she ended up stealing the amulet because she's like, I don't get it. You literally created a curse, but no one's looking at you like you're a monster. Because Regina's kind of proving her, it's understandable. Yes, you're both doing it for a similar situation, but she didn't go about things the way you did. Yes, things where people were scattered, but this was for the purposes of saving her son. She didn't outright kill and destroy and just maim and ruin a lot of people's life. Yes, there's a curse and everything, but all the people you've hurt and killed were for the purpose of your daughter, which is like, what's bothered Anastasia the most, because it's like, you're doing so much in my name. But I thought it was kind of interesting. I was like, oh, Victoria is trying to save Lucy to make up for it. It's like, so that no one thinks I'm really the monster that I am. It's like, no. Basically, she wanted the glory because I'm sure in Anastasia's eyes, but more so to Anastasia, but to anyone else, so no one would look at her as a monster. It's like, oh, I'll save Lucy, and maybe people will begin to forgive me. She kind of tried to go down a route of redemption because she wanted her family back. And when it came down to it, Gotho doing what she was doing again was going to make a sacrifice and was originally going to do Drizella, but Victoria took in her place. And it was kind of that moment of like, wow, like you knew it was coming, but it still felt good that it was happening. Because for Victoria, it's like she was finally kind of seeing that for so long she was trying to save the daughter she lost, that she didn't see that the daughter that was right there crying out for her love and attention. It's like, because she was so misguided in focusing on only one daughter and not the daughter that was there, it's like, because even as twisted as Rosella's whole situation is, she still loved her mom, whether she really would admit it or not. Because even when it was all said and done, it's like, how are you okay? And she was like, honestly, I don't know, because she hated her mom. She like felt so much venom towards her, wanted to make her suffer and take everything away from her. But now that her mom is there dead in front of her, she literally sacrificed herself for it. It's like, she actually did love me. And it's like, it leaves Drizella feeling so complicated. I've hated you for so long, and you go off and do this, and you die on me after making such a sacrifice, after like admitting you finally love me, and you leave me like this, and it's just sad. And I guess that just means that going forward, that would mean like all that weight is on Drizella to try and save Anastasia as as a way of making up for what she and her mom did. I don't know. I mean, at the same time, it's also her sister, which is so interesting because you have the whole situation where Zelina and Regina are. And I guess that same thing is supposed to be represented with Anastasia and Drizella, like sisters that don't get along. Kind of mom reasons are the reason why they kind of hate each other to a certain extent. Same thing with Zelina and Regina. I didn't even think about that tonight. Because Zelina hated Regina because it's like, oh, mom accepted you, but she gave me up. And kind of the same thing with Drizella. It's like Victoria Rapunzel did everything for Anastasia, but never really paid Drizella any attention. Nothing she did was ever good enough. And you kind of had a similar situation in the past where Zelina was willing to sacrifice herself for Robin, but Robin stopped Gotho from using her mom as a sacrifice. Which is kind of interesting. There's kind of a thing that kind of popped up in my head. I know that, obviously in this case, like Killian or Nook or, New Hook, his true love in this case is Alice, because that's his daughter and everything. But then there's another side of me that's like, but relationship-wise, I always kind of had this inkling. I was like, is it going to be him and Tiana? Is that what that's supposed to be? But then it's like him and this whole situation with Zelina. I'm like, oh, could it... Like, they were paired up, but I guess, story purpose-wise, it's like, because they're in very similar situations. It's like, oh, my daughter was kidnapped and caught up in this whole Gotho situation. It's like, well, my daughter's in the same situation, too. I'm separated from my daughter because of Gotho and everything. So, like, bound together by their hatred of one particular person. And wanting to protect their daughters, so there's that. But then there's a part of me that's like, oh, but could that also be potentially setting up a Hook and Zelina situation? I highly doubt it, but it was kind of, I was thinking that, but then I was like, but that would kind of get extra weird, because then there's a whole situation of like, well, there's Hook and Emma and Jean are kind of like sisters too, and then that'd be just kind of weird with like Emma's Hook and then like Zelina's Hook, so that's why I'm kind of thinking maybe more. I just got the inkling, like, just because like they've had interactions within, the curse too is Tiana and Hook, so I kind of feel like there might be something there, but we'll have to wait. I mean, Killian in particular. And speaking of Killian, I like Weaver, or rather Rumple, explaining things to him, and they're like, rather than breaking everything down, they're like, oh yeah, magic and all this stuff, because he knows Killian's not going to believe it. It's like, oh yeah, actually, Eloise, she's part of a cult. Yep, she was kidnapped by Victoria because Victoria is trying to save her daughter, which Eloise had taken. It's like, Ivy is like, no, her other daughter, Anastasia. So basically mixing in a little bit of the truth with a little white lies kind of mixed in. And even then, like, you have Killian be like, I don't, man, this is so much to believe. It's like, oh, the truth is a lot wilder than you actually think it is. And it was to the point that even like Killian was starting to kind of doubt Eloise because he knew she started hiding stuff from him. It's like, oh, you're my white knight and everything. So I'm curious to see what anything happened between her and Alice. That is her daughter and everything. Will anything become of that? Will Alice be able to kind of be something to kind of purge the evil in Gothel's heart? I mean, we still have to wait and see, because she still is going about the 8 witches thing. Let's not forget, she's trying to bring this coven to fruition. For what purpose exactly, we still don't know. Whether it's going to be like, oh, trying to make this world as theirs, because every villain in particular cases have always had their motives for what they were doing. Like Regina wanted to win, she wanted to have her happily ever after. So I'm curious like what Gothel's end goal is with all of these witches. Anastasia's still under her control and basically wipes Anastasia's memory of everything. So she doesn't even know that her mom was there, probably anything that was going to go down. So Drisella's probably going to have to be the one to tell her. But, she's so swept up in Gothel right now that, it's like, oh, you're almost like a mom to me. It's probably like a situation that she probably won't be super reluctant to hear anything. So I don't know. We'll just kind of have to see where things kind of go from here. Also, interestingly enough, how Zelena, I brought it up earlier, but how Zelena actually did get her magic back is the magic that she got was from Robin. It was actually the magic that was in Robin. Robin was like, I'm not really very good at magic, obviously, but I never really wanted to be. She just kind of felt like she was supposed to be because it's kind of like in her destiny. And that's kind of something that was kind of in this episode too, just like you have to be the one to kind of decide who you want to be. And, Zelena wasn't always, and that was kind of Zelena's thing, was like, she wasn't because if Robin wanted to study magic, it's like, I should have been there to kind of support that decision rather than just kind of like imposing my will upon her. It's like, also let her, find her own path, which apparently is with the bow, which is like, so I'm guessing she won't have any more magic ever again. I guess it was all kind of put inside of Zelena, maybe. Or maybe it's a situation. Well, no, it seems like it's a situation of like once it's taken, it's gone forever. So I mean, to be fair, she doesn't have the affinity for it, so we'll just kind of have to wait and see. I'm curious, was all of Anastasia's magic drained from her when it was all said and done from that stone, from the resurrection amulet? Because Victoria was kind of like, no, you're almost going to drain her. So she probably left her enough, probably because like, she probably still needs her with her magic because it's like, because I'm sure all that magic is going to go towards a resurrection spell as well. So maybe she needs Anastasia because Anastasia is the only one that actually has magic in this world. So also everyone at the hospital, that includes Nick, Jacinda, and Henry all got their blood drawn, to kind of like trying to figure out like, okay, what we can do to, potential donors and stuff like that who could potentially help Lucy out. And well, for one, Lucy ends up waking up because when Victoria dies, that sacrifice did end up waking Lucy up. It's like, that's what that was, a life for a life. So that life needed to be sacrificed to wake Lucy up, which is super sad. But I'm curious to see what Zelena and Regina are going to think about that. Because I was thinking like that whole thing was about the spell, but now I'm looking back and thinking, it's like, no, the magic being absorbed was part of the resurrection spell. That still means that they would still need another soul if they want to bring that witch lady. That, like I said, the witch lady that was in the Crystal Ball Light would still bring her back. And still, there's the other situations about the other 7 or 6 sisters, because if that lady's counted as one of them or not, there's all those other sisters part of that coven that Gothel's trying to be part of, because she's the 8th witch, is what Anastasia is. So I don't know. The thing I was getting to was the fact is that we see the doctor at the end of the episode. She's looking at the test result and it's like, oh my god, Henry's the dad. It's like, what, no way. And then we see that the doctor gets poisoned, and then someone comes over and clips her hair and takes the files. It's like, so who is that and why the hair? What is the purpose of that? That's like, legitimately, that seemed like some, I don't know who that could be. Part of me is thinking Nick. I don't know. 'Cause I think Nick might be more into. I mean, we don't really know too much about Jack except for like the little bit we met him. And like, oh yeah, like he's a good friend of Henry's. They've crossed paths on adventures and stuff like that. But it's like we don't really know Jack. To be fair, maybe Jack knows more than he's letting on. Like, who could that potentially be? Could be Gothel still trying to keep people in. See, but I feel like would she really have gone through such an extent? It seems like it might be someone else. Like I said, my money's on Nick. Just kind of keep that from happening. Maybe he found out about Henry giving blood too. So that close to almost finding out the truth. I figured as much when his blood got drawn, but I was like, oh yeah, the whole aspect of like, oh, I might be potentially a, maybe there's a 1 in 1 billion chance that I can, maybe that it's possible for me to be like a donor or something for Lucy in case she needs anything, So I thought like, oh, they're just going to continue that angle, but it's like, no, it's like, nope, Henry's actually the dad. And it's like, well, that's a secret that the doc is going to be taking to her grave. I mean, obviously other people know too, but we'll just have to, wait and see what that's all about. I am curious about something I was seeing in the previews. I kept seeing like the final chapter has just begun. I don't know if that's represented the whole series because there's a whole situation with they literally had the same thing set up for last season too with the whole Black Fairy situation. So is it supposed to be the closing of one chapter? Is that what that's supposed to mean? Like, oh, this is one chapter? Because I am hoping that they do go beyond this. I hope it isn't just like a new season of like, oh, this is the new story, but we're going to end it here. Like, I mean, like I said, it also comes down to how our ratings doing. I don't know how well the show is doing now. Like, I think it might have dipped afterwards, which I hope is not the case. That would be kind of a shame, but I do hope they continue to show for as long as possible, especially with this new storyline. I'd love to see it continuing on, like, because obviously they leave a lot of open room for it to be like, oh yeah, we can come back later on, like, what they did with the original, like, first 6 seasons. I'm like, oh, we can throw in stuff and potentially put it here and there because there's so much open room of like, oh, there's been so many years between, like, oh, because Lucy being between, Lucy being born to like the curse being enacted. So we've already got our endpoint already. So like anything going forward from in this season or any potential next season would, could take place at any point in that time. Like I said, that was just kind of something I was rattling off in my head because I caught that. But like I said, that could have just been representing like, okay, this final chapter of this season being like, oh yeah, this story is about to close, but maybe a new chapter will open up again, that type of thing. We'll just ultimately have to wait and see. Like, to be fair, I'm getting way, way ahead of myself because we still got quite a while left in this season. We're only like, are we barely at the halfway mark? So, might be actually a little past the halfway mark at this point. Nevertheless, like I said, a great episode all around. I'm very interested to see what goes down in the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.